Drakelings! The newest addition to Ark Survival Ascended's fantastic Tames roster, and possibly the cutest little shoulder pets we have seen to date. If not the cutest, by far the most magical. With their special seasonal nature which determines how they look, their abilities as well as where on the map they can be found, these little shoulder dragons are sure to become a welcome addition to every tribe. Apart from being a super cute little critter to ride on your shoulder and keep you company on your adventures, these little guys have some very useful skills. One being an emergency parachute ability called Slow Fall, where when enabled, your little shoulder dragon will grab onto its survivor's collar and furiously flap its little wings to slow your fall and negate fall damage. This automatically works from any height as long as you have the parachute function enabled, so no more taking damage when dismounting your Giga. While falling, you have very little control over your character's movement, but from my tests, this seems to be basically the same mechanic as using a parachute. To tame your very own little shoulder dragon, you first need to find them. The autumn variant can be found in redwoodsy biomes around the outskirts of the snowy areas in Ragnarok. The winter variant can be found in the cold, snowy, wintry biomes. The spring variant can be found in the beachy and grassland biomes, and I mostly found them in the right top corner of the Ragnarok map in the highlands. The summer variant can be found in Ragnarok's jungles and desert biomes, often spawning along rivers. These are the areas where you'll find the different variants on Ragnarok. However, these tiny Drakelings can also currently be found on some of the other maps, and may likely in future even be seen on more maps as they are released. I didn't find any Drakelings on the island or aberration, but found summer Drakelings all around and between the green and blue obelisks on Scorched Earth. On Extinction, I found winter Drakelings in the Winter Dome. On the center, I found summer Drakelings in the swampy area around the center island and winter Drakelings in the cold area. On Astraeos, I only found winter Drakelings in the tundra areas of Lemnokis and the riverlands of Fokintos. Before we start taming our Drakelings, some preparation is needed. The Drakelings have a very peculiar relationship to gathering and sharing experience, so it is no wonder that their taming mechanic involves just that. These little guys are a passive tame of sorts, and you will need some exceptional kibble to tame them. Extraordinary kibble also works if you have that instead. You can tame them with mutton or raw prime meat. However, both of these options barely gave me 2.5% of taming on a level 150 at 1 times taming rates per feed, so kibble is a much better option. You will need a high weight tame like an Argentavis to carry around all of your supplies needed for this tame, as well as an Ankylosaurus and a Doedicurus to gather some stone and flint that will also be needed for taming. You'll also need to craft a few mortar and pestles. I used 3 or 4, and of course they need to sit on top of a foundation, so grab a few of those and some stone walls while you're at it if you are making a trap. I would highly recommend setting up a taming area near where your chosen Drakeling is flittering about. So put down a foundation or 2 with your mortar and pestles and fill them with everything needed to make spark powder. You might be here a little while, so if you set up a campfire or some torches, you can add the charcoal to the mortar and pestle mix as well, so that you can make gunpowder. I set up a little holding pen where I could drop wild creatures in to keep them all contained in one spot. Using tamed or unclaimed creatures of my own did not give me any taming effectiveness at all, so we will need to use wild creatures for this tame. Make sure that you have your pickaxe and a hatchet on your player, and bring the best torch that you own, or the materials to repair them if you are using a lower quality one. Lastly, grab your favorite ranged weapon and a good stock of ammunition, and we are good to go. Once you have your taming area built and your mortar and pestle stocked, you will need to fill your holding pen with wild creatures from the area. If you are collecting creatures from a different area, you may need to have a second tribe member to keep them in render to prevent them from disappearing. If your server does not allow picking up of wild creatures, use a rare flower to lead some to your pen and lock them in. Now we are ready for the tame. These tiny Drakelings are curious little creatures and will be attracted to the light from your torch. So once you have cleared out the area of nasty things that will interrupt taming, it is time to stow away any tamed creatures that you have with you. The jealous little Drakelings will fiercely attack any tamed creatures that you have nearby, so make sure to keep them all out of the way. Most importantly, make sure that you do not have a shoulder pet on your player, as the wild Drakeling will need to land on your shoulder to start the taming process. Now that everything is prepared, just pull out your torch and walk up to your chosen Drakeling. They will fly around a little bit and start to come closer. Let them land on your survivor's back and read the bottom of the screen just above your hotbar to see what kind of experience your Drakeling wants you to gather. The Drakeling will ask for either experience from crafting, harvesting, or killing creatures. You will need to fill up the taming bar with experience, and once the bar has filled all the way to the top, you will be prompted to press E to feed the taming food to your Drakeling to tame it. You will also see a countdown timer that shows you how much time the Drakeling will allow you to perform the action. If you do it successfully, the Drakeling will chain their request and stay on your shoulder throughout the entire tame process, only jumping off once they switch affiliations to your clan. However, if you fail to fill up the XP bar in time, for whatever reason, your Drakeling will get annoyed with you, flitter off your shoulder, and lose some taming effectiveness. If that happens, you need to start over by luring your colorful little friend back to you with a torch once more. For a successful tame, keep the taming food in your 0 slot and perform the action that your Drakeling is asking for. If they ask you for harvesting experience, use your pickaxe or hatchet and chop down a tree, a rock, or even pick some bushes. If asked for crafting experience, you can craft some spark powder or gunpowder in your mortar and pestles. And if asked for experience from killing creatures, you should have a pen full of them at hand, so grab your favorite gun and go waste some ammo. Once the bar is full, you will get a prompt to press E to feed the taming food from your 0 slot, and then you need to wait a little while before the next prompt appears. The Drakeling will randomly ask you for one of the 3 types of experience, so try to satisfy their request every time. When using exceptional kibble, the tame will be quite quick, and you will win your new friend's trust in no time. When picking your Drakeling up, you will notice their magic ripple through your character in a colorful wave. This signifies the Drakeling's buffs changing according to the season of the Drakeling that you just picked up. By holding the R key on your keyboard, you can turn on the parachute mode for the Drakeling on your shoulder. This is a very useful passive skill, and as long as it is enabled, your little shoulder dragon will act as a biological parachute and keep you safe from fall damage. But the usefulness of these little creatures does not end there. Just having a Drakeling on your shoulder will give your player a number of buffs visible in the right bottom corner of your screen. The first buff has an icon with a nest and a yellow marker and is called the Native Biome Boost. This will give you a 10% extra experience and 10% bonus to loot quality in your Drakeling's native biome. Next, you will see a buff called the Aspect of Spring, Summer, Autumn or Winter with a seasonal icon relating to your Drakeling's season. The Aspect of Spring buff will provide you with extra health regeneration and decreased stamina consumption. The Aspect of Summer buff will grant you increased movement speed and a decrease to crowd control effect durations. The Aspect of Autumn buff will grant you increased melee damage and increased harvesting. And the Aspect of Winter buff will grant you extra damage resistance and increased insulation. The last buff is called Draconic Knowledge, which is symbolized by a little stack of books and an XP counter. The percentage of this buff scales with overall level of your Drakeling. so a higher level creature will store a larger chunk of its gained experience. Your Drakeling will store a percentage of the experience that they gain while perched on your shoulder, up to a maximum of 30,000 XP. They can then transfer this stored experience to another one of your tamed creatures. And if you let this experience stack up high enough, you will see the book icon change to notify you that a Dragon Horde key is available. This experience is stored per Drakeling, and you can have multiple Drakelings all storing experience at the same time to be used at a later time. But how do you use this stored experience? Well, let me show you. If you have a Drakeling on your shoulder, you will find a little icon with their image in your inventory. Drag this token to your hotbar and now the fun starts. When you select your Drakeling from the hotbar, it will scamper around to come sit in your hand, and you can now walk around showing your tiny dragon off to all of your friends. When you have the Drakeling's token on your hotbar, pay close attention to the text on this token, as this will tell you which mode your Drakeling is in, which determines what ability is active. If you have the attack ability active, your Drakeling will be able to perform a left click bite attack and a right click breath attack, which will differ depending on the Drakeling's season. The Drakeling is tiny, so don't expect a whole lot of range on these attacks. If you tap R, you will cycle through the Drakeling's abilities while in their handheld form. When you have the seasonal ability active, you can transfer the aspect of season buff to any of your tames with the right click. This buff, as well as the native biome buff, will be active on the tame that you are riding, but you can grant a temporary seasonal buff to any of your allied tames as well. If you cycle to the third ability with R, the text on this hotbar icon will change to XP, and you will also see the stored experience counter above your hotbar. This is how you transfer the stored experience to your creatures to help them level up faster. Just walk up to your creature with the Drakeling set to XP and right click on the creature you would like to transfer the experience to. If you collected enough experience points, you will also be awarded with a tiered Dragon Horde key in your inventory after you have transferred all of the XP to your creature. To use this Dragon Horde key, you will need to have a Drakeling on your shoulder. Then simply consume the key and it will mark a location on your map. You then need to travel to the marked location with your Drakeling on your shoulders and give them a little bit of time to summon in the Dragon Horde once you arrive. Once summoned, you can now loot this chest for some bonus loot. The keys that you are awarded are tiered, and the lowest version offers a primitive Dragon Horde, while the highest one, when you fill your Drakeling's XP meter all the way up, offers an Ascended Dragon Horde key. The loot from the top tier chests are absolutely amazing, and I think that they might just be one of the best ways to farm loot in Ark currently. The fun thing about Drakelings is that the 4 seasonal variants can interbreed with each other. So if you have a female spring Drakeling, you can breed that with your tribe mate's male winter Drakeling. Drakelings are egg layers, and the resulting egg from all of my tests seems to be a random chance to come out as either of the parents' seasonal variation. If you want to use the Drakeling's eggs for kibble, they will periodically provide you with unfertilized simple kibble eggs. Baby Drakelings are little carnivores and will need a good supply of raw meat to raise them to adulthood. If you thought that the adult Drakelings were cute, just take a look at these little guys. One last thing to mention about these tiny critters is that they have a cosmetic skin that is unlocked with a pre-order version of the Lost Colony map, which is set to release later this year. This skin doesn't change the season of your Drakeling or any of its abilities, however, it does give it a very cool themed look to match the Lost Colony armor. Now that you know everything that I do about these colorful little creatures, I hope that you will fill your entire base with tiny shoulder dragons galore. May your adventures be perpetually blessed by the magical powers of the seasons. Until we meet again, survivor, tot ziens en lekker speel!